Like, my thing is I just want to stick to that one style.
Yeah, I would go with the Hafs an Asim, which is the best, but I think the way that they teach it to you is differently, but it's the same pronunciation. Like, the same thing. All of them, they teach you the gunna, they teach you the idgham, they teach you. Okay, so yeah.
But
So,
it's like there's different styles of reciting, and there's that
yes.
one mashallah tabarakallah, it's I don't know which word it is.
No, I can't find it. I'm looking for it. Okay, let's find the Bismillah.
Is that thing right?
That's the one. Okay, no, that's not what I'm looking for. That's Ibadah. No, I'm looking for the slideshow for Nifaaq. I hope I didn't hear you. Oh. Okay, sisters, just give me a second. I'm trying to find the right slideshow. I hope I didn't override it. Oh, I found it. Okay. Alhamdulillah, we can start now. Assalamu alaikum, sister. Share. Alhamdulillah. Okay, let's start, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Be careful. How are you doing? Nice to meet you too. I love your, mashallah, your outfit is beautiful.
Long time away in Kaaba. I saw you on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Jazakallah khair.
Yeah.
All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah. All praises be to Allah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala ali wa sahbihi ajma'in. Peace and blessings be upon our Prophet Muhammad, his family and his companions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings be upon you all. Jazakumullah khair all for coming. Last time we talked about the different types of kufr, disbelieving and denying. And when we said kufr, it doesn't mean like automatically takes you out of the folds of Islam. Like some people, they say, you're a kafir, you're a kafir. So not all Muslim is not all kafir is, it's someone who goes to hellfire unless if they do something that is like a major sin or like has to do with shirk. We talked also about shirk, which is polytheism, and we said like every shirk is kufr, but not every kufr is shirk. Every polytheism is disbelief, but not every disbelief is polytheism, because some people, they do some things that it shows that they are disbelieving, but it doesn't mean that actually automatically go out. Allah will punish them for sure. Allah will give them consequences. Maybe will punish them on this earth, or even in adab al-qabr, in the punishment of the grave, or even in hellfire, right? But but subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forgiving, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us and give us hidayah, which is guidance. Today we're going to talk about nifaq. Nifaq means hypocrisy. So it means like showing that a person is believing, but in his heart is disbelieving. Okay, and this is actually one of the major nifaq. Again, just like we have kufr, we have major kufr and we have minor kufr. We have major shirk and minor shirk. We also have the same thing also with nifaq. But nifaq means like, I believe in Allah, and I do, I want to do whatever Allah wants me to do, but in my heart, I have something that prevents me to do it, like my ego, for example, or because, oh, I'm so afraid of what people are going to say, or I am going to, that's called mura'ah, and mura'ah is a type of nifaq, which is like, showing off, like, trying to make something to show off about it, subhanallah, right? And so the hypocrisy has two parts. It's the first one is major, which has to do with the aqidah. That means like, like those people who the Prophet ﷺ knew about, that they were in Medina and they were showing that they're Muslims. They would pray with the Muslims. They would fast with the Muslims. They would do everything with the Muslims, just like the Muslims do. But when it comes, but when they are between each other, they are showing kufr, and they're showing that they are against the Prophet ﷺ, okay, and against Islam. And that actually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the munafiqeen, the ones who are doing hypocrisy, those hypocrites that they have to do with aqidah or in the doctrine, those are in ad-dark al-asfal min an-nar. That means they are in the lowest pit of hellfire. That's what he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now we have another minor, which is still a Muslim, as I said, and it has to do with our egos, when we are with our nafs. And I have another lecture talking about the nafs. And this is like when a person, like he knows Allah's commands, he knows what he has to do or she has to do, but she doesn't do it because, she's thinking about what people are going to say, or like, I'm going to do it in the right moment, or I'm not ready to do it yet, or something like this. This is considered like, they call it a Nifaaq al-khafi, means the secret or the hidden nifaq, okay? Or sometimes like we say something in front of people to show that we are good and everything, but, but in reality, this is like, or someone like when in front of people, like he would try to pray in the best way ever, just because people wants to see him. And so people would say, oh, mashallah, he's praying and everything. But then behind the scene, when he's home or something like that, maybe he would delay the prayers or not praying him correctly or something like this. And that's called nifaq khafi. And that doesn't take you outside of the folds of Islam, but this is one of the diseases of the hearts, that a person should cleanse themselves from that disease, and take away that disease from the heart. And I have also another lecture talking about the disease, which is like more in tazkiyah. All right, so let's talk about a little bit about the major nifaq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, indeed, the hypocrites will be in the lowest depths of the fire, and never will you find for them a helper. And by the way, you see some of those Muslims that they come to you and you say, I want to wear the hijab. And they say, you're wearing the hijab in the West, no one would hire you. No one would do this. And Muslim would say something like that, which is really like shocks me, instead of knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the one who gives the rizq and so on, they try to prevent you of doing this. And I've seen also this with some families of women that, want their, they want to wear the hijab and their parents tell them not to wear the hijab, subhanallah. Or like fast Ramadan, but in front of people they look like they're fasting Ramadan, but maybe like when they are behind the scenes they would be like smoking a cigarette or like eating or something like this. I've seen something like that. Does that mean like they're going out of the fold of Islam? We don't know. That's nothing to do, like we're not there to judge, right? But that this is one of the nifaq. This is one of the things. And by the way, the word nifaq comes from the word nafaqa, and it comes from an animal named nafuqa. And it is actually a desert animal that used to live in Saudi Arabia, and they used to make holes in the ground. They look like a little mouse. You know what they called? You probably saw them in the movie Dunes or something like that. I don't know if you've seen the movie. And they're like little mouse, and they make holes, different holes in the ground. Now if you see a snake hole, there is a snake there. But with an nafuqa, it makes more than one hole of their house, just to manipulate, not deceive people, saying that, okay, this is my house. No, this is my house. This is my house, and so on. So people are like the other animals wouldn't find that animal. Does that make sense? And so that's why it's called nafuqa. And, and that's where the word come from. When he said that's munafiq, that means he makes so many holes, so he's not clear. You know, he's not clear. He's showing something, but he's in reality something else, you know, like that. So no. All right, now let's talk about النفاق الخفي الأصغر. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ has so many not verses, hadiths about the munafiqeen, and he said it in so many ways, in different ways, and he showed many of the signs of the nifaq al-asghar, which is the khafi, which is the hidden nifaq. And he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ayatul munafiq thalath, means there are 3 signs of the hypocrite. When he speaks, he tells lies. So some people, they want to show people that they're doing something good and they lie that they made charity or they did this or that. I mean, you know, and I'm sure that maybe all of us, if like most of us, if not all of us, that we probably fell into this, which is one of the, you know, what that we say something, or sometimes we don't say the whole truth, or like we put some spices on what we say or something like that to make it like looks. Yeah. So when a person that speaks, he tells lies. And when he makes a promise, he breaks it. Okay. And when he is entrusted, he betrays that trust. And there is another hadith also that 3 is like when he gets angry, he becomes overreacting, like overreacting to the limit that probably can cuss out and say bad words and judging people and saying like something hurtful and even like, you know, start using violence. Okay. وَإِذَا غَضِبَ فَجَرَ, means like he goes like over, you know, over the top, you know, overreacting. So, you know, those are some of the signs of the nifaq, of the hypocrisy. And a person should be very careful when he reads this hadith and check their heart. Do I have any type of that hypocrisy? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us all, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take that hypocrisy away from our hearts. Again, this small hypocrisy or this secret hypocrisy, if it consists, it can actually take you outside of the fold of the Islam, and it can make a person that has a very bad morals. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the closest ones to me are the ones who has the best morals. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us have good morals and not to be telling lies, not to be breaking promises. You know, I know sometimes, you know, there are things happen in our life, circumstances that it oblige us to break the promise, but it shouldn't be something like, okay, I'll come at 6 o'clock today or something and never show up, or like tell or take some amana from someone, take some money and never return it back to them, or something like this. You know, those are all like, you know, signs of hypocrisy, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge us for it, and we will stand accountable for it. So let's just just stop and ponder for a moment in this, and just, you know, and see ourselves, are we hypocrites or not? And how can we cleanse our hearts from that hypocrisy and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is the most important thing. So this is our lesson about nifaq, which I couldn't continue last time because we didn't have much time to finish. And tell me if you have any questions before we go to the next one, inshallah. Anyone has any questions so far from this? MashaAllah, I see 14 sisters over here. Anybody has any question about nifaq? One time there was a Sahabi, his name is Handala, and he was sitting with the Prophet ﷺ, and he was so happy, and he felt that he is so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he is so and he's so like close to him, and he felt like you know, subhanallah, that he's doing everything like he should be, like, you know. And this is like, sometimes you have this feeling, is like you feel that you are so close to Allah, and they're like, oh Allah, take my soul right now so I can go to heaven because I feel so good about it, you know. Yes. Yeah, subhanallah. So Handala was sitting, and then when he got out from the sitting where the Prophet ﷺ, you know, and he went back home, and he saw like his wife is screaming, the kids are playing all around, you know, he's so busy, people start coming to him. He used to be a businessman, you know, come to him, and he started, you know, doing so busy and everything, and then suddenly he was like, oh my goodness, oh Allah, you know, I just forgot the remembrance of Allah. What should I do right now? So subhanallah, he went outside in the street and he said, Nafaqa Handala, Nafaqa Handala, Handala is hypocrite, Handala is hypocrite. You know, he was like yelling like this. So Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he came to him and he was like, what happened, Handala? He said, this is what happened to me. You know, when I am next to the Prophet ﷺ and listen to his lecture, I feel like I'm so close to him. When I go out, I feel like I forget Allah, I forget about things. I get so angry sometimes, I get so frustrated, and what should I do? So he said, oh, I am the same way like you, ya Handala. Nafaqa Handala, Nafaqa Abu Bakr. So he started yelling in the streets like this until they went to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, what happened to you guys? Why are you doing like this? He said, you know, this is what happened, ya Rasulullah. When we come to you, we feel so close to you. We feel like we are so, you know, we are so, you know, faithful, and we are just so sincere and everything. When we go outside and we start, you know, being so, you know, we are like, you know, so indulged in the life, you know, ghafla and so on, and distraction, and it makes us away from you, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What should we do? And he said, don't worry, ya Handala, don't worry, ya Abu Bakr, you know, you're still good Muslims. Don't feel bad about it. This is life, and this is the test of this life, you know. And he said, if you are going to be like this and you are always faithful, and there is nothing, you know, nothing makes your faith lower or higher. And that's what he said. And this is where it comes with in the aqidah, like the faith, the al-iman yazid wa yanqus. That means faith can increase and decrease. And this is that's very normal with anybody. You know, and he said, if you are going to be like this with me all the time, faithful, then the angels will come down and they would be shaking hands with you. You know, like, don't feel because you're stressed, you are depressed, because you have all these things that sometimes you feel that you forgot about Allah, that you sometimes things go away from your mind, remembrance and things like that. That doesn't mean that you actually went outside of the fold of the Islam, or, you know, or like you felt like, you know, that your iman is so weak and so on. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he loves for his slave to come to him all the time, no matter what. So even if you are tired, if you're stressed, if you're depressed, I have some sisters, they're like, oh sister, please take me off the list, I don't want to be listening to your lecture anymore. I'm like, why? She's like, well, I'm going through stuff, I need to figure things out, and then I come back. I'm like, really? How? You're supposed to be running towards Allah, not running away from Allah. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, firru ilallah, means flee to Allah. Like, if you are scared, if you are depressed, run towards Allah, not running away from Allah. Yeah, it's okay if you don't want to hear my lecture, that's fine. But that doesn't mean, subhanAllah, that doesn't mean to stay away from Allah and say, oh, I'm going to just figure things out. You know, you will never figure things out. You need Allah's help. You need Allah helps. You need to come back to Allah. And that's what Allah wants us to do. And sometimes Allah make us and allow us to fall into the test and in the tribulation, so we can come back to Allah, because this is the moment we are closer to Allah, is when we are in the test. We come to Allah and we start asking Allah, oh Allah, help me, oh Allah, do this for me, oh Allah, you know. But when we are like, everything is good and nice and everything, and I have money and I have good children and they are going to school and everything's going perfect, then, you know, most of people, they don't remember Allah. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَلِيلٌ مِنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. That means very few of my slaves are grateful to Allah. Why? Because in that circumstances, when everything is perfect, very few people that they come to Allah and thank him and show gratitude. And this is an ayah in the Quran. So always, you know, come back to Allah, even if you feel stressed. There's nothing, you know, yes, you know, maybe you would feel that you are hypocrite and things like that, but don't despair. Don't lose hope, and know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to help you. And this life is like a training for us, to help us to do better all the time, to always strive, do jihad. Jihad means striving for the sake of Allah, striving against your ego, striving against your bad habits, the evil thoughts, the evil actions, all these things. That's what real jihad means. Like, you know, to be striving against someone's ego in order to do better, inshallah.
Those terms is like, you have to remind yourself, this is from shaitan. Like, shaitan wants me to not want to do.
Yeah.
To be so focused on, oh, not worth it. or I'm not worthy right now, not
Right.
worthy, I'm not worthy right now, or I'm just in a really bad place, like I can't focus, I'm gonna feel like a hypocrite. That's exactly what his aim is, for you to doubt
Sorry.
yourself so much that you're gonna get away from Allah instead of getting closer.
Yeah, so Sister Carissa over here say, I have to say it in my lap because they can't hear you. So she says that Shaitan wants you to feel that you're a hypocrite. So you would feel, you will lose hope basically and saying that, okay, Allah will not forgive me, or I need to do it myself. Trust me, a person, you know, if you try to do it yourself, you will lose, you will fall, you know. But if you ask Allah's help, Allah will help you. You know, you need that support, inshallah. So before I go to the next chapter of the book, by the way, I'm actually reading a book. It's called Mukhtasar al-Aqida. That means Mukhtasar means the summary of Aqida for Khalid al-Mshayqih. His name is the Sheikh Khalid al-Mshayqih. And Hafidahullah, he's still alive until now. And he's one of the students of Ibn al-Uthaymin, rahimahullah. And this is where I get most of the information, because they're like, I feel like it's very clear, and they're like all chunked up with information, and so that's why I love doing that. Before we go to the next one, which is talking about ibadah and aqsam al-ibadah, and we're talking about shirk and al-kufr and so on. Next time we will be talking about ibadah, and we're going to go indulge more into how to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are so many ways, there are so many categories, and so on. We're going to talk about this. But before that, I have someone who asked me, are all kafirs going to hellfire? And what is what's our role as Muslims, how to deal with non-Muslims, and there are so many misconceptions about that, because there are some Islamophobes. They say, you Muslims are practicing taqiyya. Taqiyya, that means like you are showing face in front of the kafir that you're nice and everything, but behind their back you hate them and you want to kill them and you plot against them and you want to conquer the world. Basically, that's what most people, not most people, but the Islamophobes, they believe like this, and they try to spread this ideology for people. So they're basically spreading hate. They're trying to divide people from each other. And that's what I want to answer today before I go to the next one, which is ibadah. Is like kafir means like it's a curse word that Arabs say about a person who is a disbeliever, because like Christians, they get so offended when you tell them you're a kafir, especially the Christian Arab. And I'm actually used to be Christian Arab. So when someone used to tell me that you're a kafir, I would go so angry, because the way that I was raised, that kafir means that means like you're a filth person, you're a bad person. But as I showed you in my last lecture, kafara means cover, right? It means covering the truth. They know the truth, but they cover it. You need some water, sister? You okay? Oh, my dear, I'm so sorry. May Allah make it easy for you. Don't drink a lot of ice while you're sick. It's no good for you. Yeah, ice is no good. Water, just regular water, not ice. Yeah. May Allah make it easy for you. Take care of yourself, okay? Wa alaikum salam. Sorry about that. So, okay, so what is kafir means? Kafir means disbelief, or the one who deny the truth, that they hear the truth and they deny it, okay? Now, what about those people who actually don't know the truth, like they've never heard about Islam or anything like that, and they die? Do they all go to hellfire? That's between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to, those are called the people of al-fatra, means the period or the phase, the people of the phase or the period, okay? And what they do is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to demonstrate Islam to them, is going to show Islam to them. If they accept, then they go to Jannah, inshallah. If they don't accept and they deny it, then they are kuffar. They are disbelievers, okay? Okay, what about if a person is so good, he's Christian and he's so good and he heard Islam. He heard Islam. He knew everything about Islam, but they denied Islam and they wanted to stay Christians, to stay doing this, okay? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, not even one Jew or Christian did not hear about me and did not believe in me, then they will not go to heaven, okay? Christians don't believe in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, Christians are so good, subhanallah. And yes, Jews are, you know, some of them are good, not everybody. And that's what the Quran says, actually. The Quran is very objective about the Jews and the Christians. He says that some people of Ahl al-Kitab, that if you give him just 1 penny, he will not be responsible for it. And if you and there are some people who give them so much money and so on, and they are very trustworthy and they're very truthful. So that's the Quran is very objective about that, you know. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He says, وَإِنَّ أَقْرَبَهُمْ مَوَدَّةً لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. The closest ones to the believers are the ones who say that they are Christians. That because they have priests and they have qissisin, that means pastors, and they are not arrogant. And if they really hear the words of Allah truthfully, you will see their eyes coming, you will see their eyes tearing, and they say, رَبَّنَا آمَنَّا فَاكْتُبْنَا مَعَ الشَّاهِدِينَ. Oh, our Lord, we have believed, so write us among the witnesses. And this is actually in Surah Al-Ma'idah. So, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very objective about it. He says that there are some people like this and there are some people like this. And so who goes to heaven and who goes to hellfire? We know that, like, in general, you know, by the way, we have nothing to do with intentions. We're not supposed to be judging someone according to his intentions. We don't know their hearts. That's something between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? But what we see, نحن لنا الظاهر. You know, when we judge people according to the appearance, to what we see in general. And the actions, exactly. Yeah, sahih. So the actions showing that they are denying Islam, they don't want to hear anything about Islam. So we know that anyone who deny Islam and deny the Prophet ﷺ goes to hellfire, because that's a clear hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay? And they say, well, this is harsh, and that shows like hate. And so no, it doesn't. That doesn't, you know. We love the person for him as or her as a human, but we hate their sin. And we hate to see them go into hellfire. And that's why it is a duty for us as Muslims to go and call people for Islam, doing dawah. Exactly. So now let's talk about kuffar. Kafara, as I said, it means the one who covered the truth. That means disbelieved. Kafir, in the context of the Islamic context, the kafir is the one who was exposed to the truth and refused to follow it or deny it. And I showed you that there is a major kufr and there is a minor kufr. Okay. Kafir also can be said for a non-Muslim. So it's not actually a curse word or something like that, a cuss word or something like this. So for the Christian, I am a kafir for him because I denied Jesus as God. I denied for him that Jesus is part of the Trinity. So I'm a kafir for a Christian, you know, for a Christian. I'm a kafir to, for a mulhid or an atheist. Why? Because I believe in Allah while he doesn't believe in Allah, you know, and he is a kafir. Why? Because he denied Islam. Does that make sense? Inshallah. Right. So the kafir are 3 types. There are 3 types that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speak about in the Quran. And most of that actually is mentioned in Surah At-Tawbah, which is chapter 9. And they call it also Bara. Okay. So who are those 3 kuffar or 3 non-Muslims? The first one is a sincere non-Muslim, and he is a covenantal. That means we have a truce between them and us. We have a treaty between them and us called citizenship. Just like us as Muslims, we are living in the treaty of United States of America under the Constitution. And so they are covenantal with us. Okay, we have a treaty between them and us to be good citizens. The non-Muslims also who revoke their agreement, this is the second part, and those are like the Islamophobes. Those are the ones who show Islam, but they plot against Islam, like, you know, like those spies, for example, or the traitors, you know. And there is a third one is the non-Muslim who seek refuge. And those are the minor Christians and Jews who live among the Muslims. Like, for example, in Jordan or in Syria, or in Morocco, there are so many Jews there. or like in Lebanon and in Palestine, and and so on. So all these, they're called those are non-Muslims that who seek refuge. Now, some Christian Arab would say, well, I'm not a refuge there. I'm a citizen. Yes, you are, but you are a minority among the majority. And if something happened, God forbids, like, for example, a war or a battle or something like that, who's going to go and defend you? The Muslims, right? Who's going to be defending their land? Your land is the Muslims, because they are the majority, and so on. So let's talk a little bit about the al-mu'ahidin, means the covenantal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, expected are those with whom you made a treaty among the polytheists, and then they have not been deficient toward you in anything or supported anyone against you. So complete for them their treaty until their them has ended. Indeed, Allah loves the righteous who fear Him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking the Muslims here to fear Allah and to be good with those people who have covenant with them. So us as Muslims who are living in the United States, and we're supposed to be showing good citizenship, okay? Same thing with any other country. If we see any non-Muslim and I have nothing against him and they have nothing against me, I should show good treatment as well, a good treatment and a good attitude as well. Okay, so those are called the covenantal. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah At-Tawbah, so as long as they are upright toward you, be upright toward them. Indeed, Allah loves the righteous. Again, Allah is asking us to fear Allah and to be just and to be merciful to these people. Now, let's talk about the ones who are Islamophobes, or they are always attacking Islam, or that you see some people who are killing Muslims also in some of the countries. What is our role as Muslims? It says over here in chapter 9, verse 12 and 13, and if they break their oaths after their treaty and defame your religion, then fight who? The leaders of disbelief. Okay, so not every Jew that we see, we come to them and we just chop their heads just because they break the treaty. Who? No. Over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, fight the leaders. Who are the leaders? Are the ones who are fighting us, like Netanyahu, like the army, things like that, go and fight the army, not fight the innocent people. Those are just followers and they don't know nothing, or they don't know better, right? And their hate is because what they see in the media, for example, not because they know Islam, the true Islam, right? So who we're supposed to be fighting? As what? As a defense as a self-defense. For indeed, there are no oaths sacred to them. Fight them that they might cease. Would you not fight a people who broke their oaths and determined to expel the messenger, and they had begun the attack upon you the first time? So another thing is, we're not supposed to just like, okay, because they broke a treaty, we're just going to go and take our swords and start fighting, or take our guns and start shooting. No, if they begin the fight, then we fight them back as a self-defense. Do you fear them? But Allah has more right that you should fear Him if you are truly believers. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to fear Allah and fear Allah. Now, the last type are Ahlul Dhimma. They are the non-Muslims who seek refuge, or the ones that they are the minority who are living among the majority of the Muslims. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we should and we must be good to them, and we should treat them well. And by the way, these Christian Arab who come here and they raise their race card saying that, oh, we've been persecuted in our Arab country and in the Muslims country and so on, most of them are liars. And I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me. Subhanallah, I was Christian at that time, and I was taken to be a translator for a family. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I was taken to be a translator to a family who are Christian Arab. I don't want to say from which nationality, okay? And I went all the way to Houston to the immigration office, because this is where the asylum immigration office is. And I was there, and it was their second interview, okay? And then this lady, she was saying that there is a Muslim came and they burned me with acid water, and they were stalking us everywhere, and they were about to kill us. And by the way, this country is one of the most peaceful countries in the Middle East, just to let you know, okay? I don't want to say which country it is. So she started saying that, and she said, I saw the man. And then the interviewer, she was asking him, like, what kind of, like, what was he wearing, this man? And he said she was wearing a white garment, like all Muslim men, has long beard, and he has like 2 flip-flops, and he was sitting in a pickup truck, and he was following us. He was stalking us. So the interviewer asked her, she was like, how did you see his flip-flop and he was in the car? Like, what did he has his, like, you know, his feet all the way up on the shield, for example, or something? Like, it was so funny, right? Yeah. So subhanallah, you know, after we're done with the interview and everything, so the lady next to me, she was like, go and ask the interviewer, like, how did I do? You know, did I do good? So I go over there and ask her. I was like, how did she do in the interview? She was like, you know, she was like, this is her second interview, and she did like 17 differences from the answers from the first interview and the second interview.
Oh, okay.
So she was like, clearly she was lying all the time, right? And so, yeah, you will see some Islamophobe Arab because they want the visa or a green card so bad. And they think that if they show the loyalty to the Christians, so they will get that visa, right? And so they start lying against Islam and Muslims. And by the way, the most Islamophobes that I've seen in my life, and I'm sorry, I'm not saying it out of hate or anything, but of experience, are the Arab Christian. And they're the ones who give those ideologies, like to Christian Prince and all these people who actually attack Islam, to them, for them to be like, you know, on that, you know, in the front of the camera to talk against Islam, you know. And so, subhanallah, I'm just saying something that I show it. But no, there are some Christian Arab who are very good, you know, most of them are very good, but there are some few, you know. And same thing also with the Americans, same thing also in the West. You see, most of the non-Muslims are very good to the Muslims, and they support the Muslims and things like that. But there are some few that we know about that they are racist against not only Muslim, but against any colored person, right? And so on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, and if any one of the polytheists seek your protection, then grant him protection so that he may hear the words of Allah. Then deliver him to his place of safety. That is because they are a people who do not know. Most of the people that we know, they are not Muslims. They don't know nothing about Islam, and they don't use their brain or their curiosity to learn about Islam. And they're not that interested in religion in general, you know, not only just about Islam, but about any religion. They're just living their life, you know, for themselves, you know, to eat, drink, and have money and have children. And that's all, you know, that's the life for them, you know. And so anyway, are all the kuffar are going to hellfire? Anyone who does not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and who does not believe in all the prophets, yes, they will go to hellfire. But if they did not hear the full message of Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end will demonstrate to them the Islamic message. So if they believed and they followed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then they will go to heaven. And if they disbelieved and they kept denying, then they go to hellfire. You know, who am I to judge? I'm nobody. But I know from what I see from outside that if someone Islamophobes come over here and they try to attack me or something like that, I talk to them first, second, 3, 4 times about Islam, and they just don't want to hear, and they want to just, you know, I know this person is going to hellfire. They're just going to put their fingers in their ears. So I hope that I answered your question about this misconception.
I think it's important though to remember that, like, don't overly concern yourself as if someone else is going to get them or not.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you know, first of all, you have to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that our only ally, is Allah.
Sorry.
Can we have treaties with other people? Yes. As long as they treat you right, you treat them right. But on the concept of going to Jahannam, it's not our place, because we don't even know where we're going.
Yes.
You know, we should be more concerned with where are we going than where is someone else.
Sorry, that's right.
And then the other thing is, I know that a lot of people ask this question because they're like, I'm the Muslim, my family is not Muslim. If you want them to go to Jannah, just talk to them about Islam.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, most of the people who ask this question are reverts who don't have who have non-Muslim family. They say, well, what about my father? What about my son? What about my sister, my mother? You know, and I always tell them that, you know, it's like worry about yourself and then go talk to them. That's right. Do da'wah to them.
Yes, I've been asked that question by also like the Christian, right? Like,
Mhm.
okay, so then what do you believe in? I say, okay. What I believe about it isn't as important as what do you believe about what I'm telling you? Because at the end of the day, you also have your concept that all Muslims will go to hell. It's not very different.
No, it's not.
So it's not about, oh, am I going to hell versus are you going to hell? It's about what are we going to do with the information that we have? Now, I'm giving you information. You're trying to give me information. Now, which one is the one that aligns with the truth?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I have one of my
else is going to go to hell because you don't know who you are.
yeah, I have one of the family members. She always tell me that I follow shaitan, you know, and I'm going to hellfire. So for her, I'm a kafira, right?
But that's what it's
Yeah.
like how you were saying that for everybody else is a kafir.
Yeah.
All right.
So okay, so Sister Nadia is asking, you mean Allah will show Islam to them in the Akhirah? Yes. Those are called the people of Al-Fatra, you know, Al-Fatra. For someone who never heard about Islam or they heard Islam in a distorted way and they didn't know Islam in the right way. So what happened is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will demonstrate Islam for them and show them the truth. So if they followed Islam, then they will go to heaven. If they did not follow Islam and they kept denying, then they go to hellfire.
good question about so
Can you
this
come
what-
next to me? Because I want them to hear your voice.
Oh,
I don't want to be keep repeating myself.
Actual question.
Okay.
So is this what happens like when we pass away and we go to the barzakh or enter the day of judgment?
Well, nobody knows exactly. They really don't know.
I know
So
that whenever someone
yeah,
dies,
there's
right,
not
like,
really
we get asked in the grave, right?
there's not really hadith that is authentic talking about what happens to them, to the non-Muslims, if it's in the barzakh or in the day of judgment.
Like,
Yeah.
when Allah shows them
Yeah.
about Islam, it doesn't
Yeah.
say anything.
Yeah, no, most scholars, they say it happens when they first die, you know, in order
That's
to
what
be,
we get
yeah,
asked.
yeah, when they're asked. Yeah, but there is not really a hadith, sahih, you know, authentic hadith showing us exactly when it happens, you know. Yeah. Okay, any questions so far? I think that's enough for today. Or do you want to continue to ibadah, or what do you want to do? Oh, you just got here. I've been talking for an hour. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. It's good to see you, Sister Martha. How are you? Good. Yeah. Any questions so far? Anyone would like to say anything from the sisters here? I see, mashallah, we have 10 people here. Let me see who then. Yeah. Online. Sister Ambreen, Angelica, Sister E, Sister Galaxy, Sister Nadia, Nazia, Nora Ibrahim, okay, Rania, and Sister Samsung. I don't know who's that, but you're all welcome, mashallah. Jazakumullah khair all for coming. Anyone has any question or any comment? If you have any comment or any story happened to you, related to our subject, even if it's not related to our subject, and you have something interesting you want to say, please. Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, sister. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. Always informative, alhamdulillah.
Exactly.
I just have one question. Usually we come across people because, as you said, we don't want to judge, but sometimes we will judge based on the person's behavior and action and how they do certain things. But sometimes their behavior affects us. So what do we do at that? Like, how do we react? Because we don't want to say like, oh, this person is munafiq or not. Are we supposed to ask ourselves if this person is munafiq? And the second part is, if we know that this person is munafiq, do we warn somebody who are close to them or not?
Very good
about
question.
our doubts? Because sometimes those people, you know, they're using, for example, the deen or the way they do certain things just to get some type of benefit or put another person, you know, in a situation. So I just want to know, how do we react to them? Do we just know in our heart and forget it, like, or stay away, or what do we do about this information? Or should we not even question that? Because it's very hard to know if a person is munafiq or not. It's very hard, even though the action could be could show. Because you could think like, oh, but maybe they are in their journey and maybe they will stop, or maybe they will become better, or maybe I don't want to be too judgy and all of that.
Yeah, this is a great question, by the way. And my answer to that is follow the footsteps of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The thing is, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he knew the munafiqeen in Medina, and he never exposed them, right? He never exposed them. And the other thing is, we know who, even if you know that this action that he did is munafiq, of course, we don't know their hearts. We don't know why they did that. Maybe they have something going on in their life that made them act the way they did. So we are not there to judge them. But the thing is, if you know and somebody did you wrong, and you know that this was a nifaq of what they did, right? First of all, don't confront, because the Prophet ﷺ never confronted a munafiq and told him, you're a munafiq. Okay? So don't do that. Second, when Umar al-Khattab came to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, this munafiq, and he knew who the munafiqs are, you know. He said, let me go and just chop his head and just kill him. And he said, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, why would you do that? Although they are munafiqs, and we know that, you know, but you don't want the other people saying that that the Prophet is killing his own friends, his own companions. So don't do anything, right? And he made dua to some of them, not all of them, some of them for Allah's hidayah, right? But the other ones, Allah knew their hearts, so they knew that they're not going to be, you know. Second, so that's the second thing. So what is the best approach for that? First of all, it's good that you advise them and tell them that they're doing wrong, and you know, try to if there is a way to reconcile with them, or like, you know, do it in a way not to hurt them. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he used to advise and he didn't want to confront, he say, "Ma balu aqwamin." How about some people do this and that in general? So, for example, I'm sitting over here, and I know one of the sisters here is, let's say, she lied to me, and I say, how about those people that they lie? You know, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like liars, for example. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that a Muslim can do fornication, a Muslim stay a Muslim, even if he steals, a Muslim stay a Muslim, but a Muslim wouldn't be a liar, okay? So we need to approach it in a wise way, you know, use al-basira, that means, you know, vision, the heart vision, like to see things, foresee things, and to approach it in the best way, right? And so use al-basira, use al-hikmah, which is wisdom in the way that you speak. And don't, now, if you see someone is clearly a munafiq and is about to harm someone or a community, okay, then you go and speak against them. But it's only in this way, all right? So only for this, when you speak against them, it's because you are warning them. But if they're just like doing something and they did something against you, and khalas, you know, and you kind of like, you know, separated from her and you just divided yourself from her, khalas, you don't have to go and tell people. And even if you see some people and they ask you about her, say Alhamdulillah and khalas, you know, you don't have to say details about her and what she did to you and what she did that, because that's considered also backbiting. Maybe that she's not a munafiq. Maybe she did that action with you, but with the other people, she's good. You never know, right? So we better not to be speaking, you know, and again, it's better, you know, when you want to make a nasiha, do something between her and you, if you want, or in general, just when you are speaking in front of people and things like that, without hurting her feelings in a way. Does that make sense? Inshallah. So the best thing is just to follow the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ.
So we were warned, like, okay, if you have a companion, right, you know someone and they deviate a lot, not just once, not just twice, but they deviate often, then you need to assess your companionship, right? Because you don't want that companion like takes you the smell of the coal, right? You don't want to. But at the same time, like a good way to think about it is like, okay, that person, they could be committing a sin, but I am not Allah, right? So it's better for me to be like, okay, you know, if it's something that it's a sin between, then let it be between him and Allah. And you'd be like, okay, I'm gonna distance myself, right? But if it's something that, okay, somebody did something to you, right? Actually to you, then be honest and say, hey, you know that thing that you did to me, it hurt my feelings or it hurt me in some way. Maybe that person didn't realize it,
Sorry.
and you being open about the thing that they did to you,
Sorry.
then maybe they can turn around and change, right? But if they're like, oh no, you know, gaslighting, or you know, no, I do this to everybody or whatever, you still stay away because
Sorry.
they did something to you and they're not trying to like be repentant.
Sorry.
But then whenever somebody does something, a consistent action that everybody is seeing, and that person is trying to like, you know, for example, oh, I'm gonna ask this sister for money and this sister for money and this sister for money, and I'm lying to each one of them, and you see it, and everybody else is it, then you are now obligated to go and say, hey, you know, if this person comes and asks you for money, don't give that person the money.
Yeah.
Because then it is wrong on the community, not just on yourself.
Sorry.
So there's, you know,
And you know,
in
sometimes,
either way, like we are not
yeah.
supposed to be like, well, I'm not gonna,
yeah,
because we want Allah to forgive us,
yeah.
you know.
And I don't mean to go away from the subject to take just like this little thing, but you mentioned about the money and why do people keep asking money from different people?
No, I'm talking about if they ask money.
I know, but you know,
about, like different stories. Like,
yeah.
oh, I need the $50 for this, and then
Yeah, and then they say
thing.
same thing. But you know, sometimes I blame us. If we have one entity that collect all the money and only, you know, this entity, like anyone goes to ask money, they tell them, go to this sister or go to this organization, go to this organization. So they wouldn't be having that, those holes that you go to this masjid and take $200, that masjid take $150. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? I wish that we have something, I wish we have like one organization that collects all the zakah of all the masajid, and if anybody comes for money and asking for rent or anything like that, to come to this one organization instead of going to INT, ICI, all that, you know, does that make sense? Exactly. And this is how it used to be a long time ago at the time of the State of Islam. Yes, they have it Bayt al-Mal, which is the house of the mal, the wealth. You know, people used to put all their zakah in there, and that zakah used to be you know, when it was spent for good cause. So instead of a person coming every month to ask for rent, no, wait, come here, tell me what's your skills. Okay, you want to open a business, I'll open a business for you. So you will stop asking, and then next year you're going to be paying me zakah. You see what I'm saying? Like that. This is how it's supposed to be, zakah. But we are so good in wasting zakah in here. We waste so much money on people that they don't deserve it, or even if they deserve it, we're not doing anything to help them. You see what I'm saying? We're just like, I'm sorry, astaghfirullah, but this is something that makes me so angry.
It's actually important.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things is like, okay, the Muslim isn't supposed to be a beggar. If he has hands
Sahih.
and feet, he's supposed to do something to be able to earn.
Sahih.
Not just be going and asking. But yes, obviously the zakat is there for, or you can give sadaqah to anybody. You can give sadaqah to anybody. But zakat is for someone, you know, they have a particular situation that even working with their hands won't take them out of that situation.
Sahih.
This is something we know, right?
Sahih.
But for sure, whenever someone's going at the same person going to different entities and
Yes.
giving different stories,
And they lie,
doing
and they
different
lie, and they say, well, I never got anything from anybody. Well, did any other organization pay you? They don't want to say they
don't
paid
wanna
me
say.
because if they said, then let's say INT and ICI gave them like $150, right?
Mhm.
And they come to INT, they say, anybody paid you? And they say no. Why do they say no? Because they want the other 250 in order to put it together.
Big
You know?
things too, like that's a whole other
Yeah.
conversation, but one of the like big things with that too is that when you give zakat, you're supposed to be able to not, oh, I'm going to give you enough food for today, because then tomorrow they're not going to have food.
Exactly.
You're supposed to look at what it is that they need and be like, okay, for example, if this person, the reason why they're asking all the masjids is because each masjid is only giving them $100. but the actual issue is that this person needs $500, then obviously the situation is not going to get resolved. So like in the banks, right? Like I used to work in a bank. What the banks would do is it would just call the company, the other bank, and be like, hey, I just need to verify this person real quick. Oh, I need to verify this person real quick. And all of the masjids doing that, you're gonna know.
Mhm.
And you're gonna be able to read
We
out the
should have
person.
like some kind of database or something like that with the masajid, or at least, as I said, an entity. And by the way, Austin is doing that. That they could actually like last year, they had so much extra money that they actually contacted me asking me, do you have any emergency cases that we can pay like emergency rent or something? And they were helping us. Now we don't have that help anymore because they're back, their funding is less than before. But last year that they helped at least 5 families, 5 families consistently for like 5-6 months. So subhanallah, again, when we put all the money together and we come all together and stand together, you know how much we can do things to our community. But subhanallah, it's just like each masjid, they want have their own logo on it. Yeah.
And then there's gonna be a time where Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam reminded that he wasn't afraid of poverty, he was afraid of wealth. And there was gonna be a time where everybody had what they needed, and you would be looking, where do I get my zakat? Where do I get my zakat?
Yeah.
Because everybody has.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
Not there yet.
So we should be like,
Actually, we were there before at the time of Amr ibn al-As. Amr ibn al-As, when he became not Amr ibn al-As, what's his name? What's the name of the Khalifa that he did not have anybody to give zakat to, and they have a lot of grains, and then he went and he spread all the grains on the mountains for the birds to come eat it. So they would say, so he says, I don't want anyone from outside saying that the Islamic country don't feed their animals, because they had so much zakat, so much money that they didn't know what to do with it. They even, like, there's one of the accounts or the stories that one person would have also their bags of gold and food, and they would leave it at the side of the road and no one would take it. And subhanallah, yeah. Anyway, Jazakumullah khair, Barakallah feekum. Abdul Aziz, Jazakallah khair, Sister Nadia. Yes, at the Khalifa Abdul Aziz, it was at his time that the zakah was it was overwhelming. It was so much, that they didn't know what to do with the money. And they did so much for the country and for the, they did streets, they built also masajid, hospitals, all these things. And it was one of the times where it was like most civilized. Why? Because people were actually following the zakah, following the right Islam, and it was like the most peaceful time. It was a lot of barakah. That's right. Subhanallah. They say right now, if the Gulf country Muslims, they pay their zakah how they should be, they would say no poor person would be a poor person in the Islamic country. Yeah. Okay. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم. I say this and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take away the nifaq, the hypocrisy away from our hearts, to cure our hearts from any diseases. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to the true path. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us and protect our children and guide us and guide our family to Islam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us light in this world, to tell other peoples about Islam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring the love in our hearts for each other, and to give us wisdom in the way we talk and the way we speak and the way we do actions. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring us closer to Him. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the highest status of paradise. Allahumma I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. Oh Allah, help me to thank you and to mention you all the time and to worship you in the best manner. Jazakumullah khair. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم. I say this and I ask Allah for forgiveness. If I say something right, then it is from Allah. If I say something wrong, then it is from myself and from shaitan. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خير. I love you all for the sake of Allah, and I'll see you next time, inshallah. I'll see you next Sunday.